Welcome to Tech Talks. At Tech Talks, we talk to people who are redefining the landscape of Nigeria and also changing the way things are done. Today, I'm happy to have Ms. Ola Brown on our show, the owner of Flying Doctors, and she has really redefined how medical evacuation is carried out in Nigeria. So Ola, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, tell me, you're a medical doctor.
Yes.
And so why did you decide to choose one of the hardest, challenging areas of medicine to operate in Nigeria?
I'm a physician, but I've always been very, very restless. I've always wanted to sort of do something besides the normal medical career. And when I was in medical school, my sister actually died because we couldn't get a medical transfer in Nigeria. So I started thinking more about how to get the right patients to the right medical facility within the right time frame using air transport. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized that I wanted to come and work in Nigeria and start a company that did that. So as you know, I had never been to Nigeria before in my adult life. I was born in England. I wasn't even raised by my Nigerian parents. I was actually raised by my white foster parents. So coming here not knowing anybody was a big challenge. But I think it gave me a lot of entrepreneurial skills. And we've been going almost 10 years now. We've been profitable for all those 10 years. We've been growing for all those 10 years. And 2 years ago, we decided, along with some of my friends, which I'll talk about later, to start a tech fund that has invested in some of the biggest tech companies in Nigeria. So I'm really, really happy that in the past almost decade, I've not just been able to set up a successful, profitable company for myself, but I've also been able to pay that experience forward and start helping some of the most interesting tech companies in Nigeria achieve that sort of scale.
So very interesting. Tell me, and I think people would like to know this. So first of all, you haven't been to Nigeria in a very long time. You come to Nigeria with a great idea. So how do you, and you don't know many people. So how do you sell that idea, which is you want, and which is a very capital intensive, and how do you get that off the? How did you go from concept to realization?
So. I thought when I first came that...
Especially when banks are terrible people to borrow, especially when banks do not help when it comes to green fields.
I don't think Nigerian banks have any role to play sort of in startups. So it's at the startup stage, really, it's about being able to bootstrap. I think that's the best way to start a small business, being able to bootstrap your way up or trying to get client financing. So for me, I decided that I was going to go for client financing. So I came to Nigeria, obviously, I'd come as a child, but I didn't know any adults. I didn't really have any relationships. So I started with the uncle that I did know, and I asked him to give me 5 letters to people that he knew in the health sector that might be able to help, might be able to give me ideas. And he gave me those letters, and I took those letters and physically to all those people and started having conversations. And all those people also gave me letters to take to other people. Some of them were completely pointless. I would say probably 99.9% of the meetings were completely pointless. But one thing eventually led to another. And after a year of work, I was able to get a contract in place, which enabled me to lease an aircraft. So that's how I started.
So, Flying Doctors, do you fly?
No, not at all.
Okay.
I think this is one of the most interesting things about entrepreneurship, actually, in that I think a lot of people that we have mentored as Greentree, our fund, and a lot of professionals in general think that once you're an accountant, then it's that accounting that is going to do the business. Or once you're a developer, then it's that development skill that you have to get really good at. And I think for the first initial phase of my business, I was going for a lot of medical conferences. I was going for cardiology. I was going for all the specialities, thinking that that's not medical knowledge was going to be the thing that was going to move my business forward. But actually, business is a lot less about IQ and about technical knowledge, and a lot more about your ability to manage people and your ability to manage money. And I try and get our entrepreneurs that we're investing focused on making money first. So you can make a minimum viable product, and definitely we had a minimum viable product. So it wasn't the most sophisticated air ambulance in the world. Like the most sophisticated ones even have a CT scanner inside them. So it wasn't the most sophisticated, but it was a product that we could take public. It was a product that met all the standards that the international oil companies wanted. And with that, we could really develop the business side and be more aggressive about the business side. So very quickly I had to learn about finance, and now obviously I talk more about finance and I even talk about medicine. I had to learn about managing people and bringing out the best in people, and also being able to really hire good people. So I think it's a combination of business is less about the technical skills, because those can always be hired, and more about the ability to lead. Number one, the ability to manage people, manage people's emotions, manage people's sort of being able to hire for their strengths rather than lack of weaknesses, and also being able to manage money and being able to get paid on time, and being able to have the fiscal discipline, I would say, or financial discipline to roll a certain amount back into the business to keep it growing. Because I see a lot of companies as well, they've become more or less like financial engineers. They're always looking for the next raise, and it becomes more about raising capital than making capital. And I think it's really, really important for entrepreneurs early on to be more about making capital than continually looking for the next raise.
And really and truly, when I think about a business, it's about saving lives. It's also about a logistic challenge. Because in Nigeria, a lot of people die not because there's no medical attention, is that getting them to that medical attention is there. So what's the next step for flying doctors? Do you want to get bigger? Do you want to get more sophisticated? Or do you want to go into, should I say, from flying doctors to land doctors, for example?
I feel like we're growing. I've set up a really permanent structure. We have offices in London. We work in over 10 African countries. This is a mature company. And I'm very, very interested. Like I spend like 40% of my time now actually working with my startups, because we now have 10 portfolio companies that I've invested in. Because the options for investment when you run a profitable company are kind of limited. We can even give our money to you and do treasury bills and be collecting 16%. So we have that portfolio in our company, in our treasury management portfolio. But we've also invested quite a lot in startups. And investing in startups is not only giving them money, but also giving them mentorship, sitting down, helping them think about their businesses and seeing where their businesses are going to go next. So Greentree, the board of Greentree is made up of myself, Mr. Bode Augusto, Abis and Abbas from Wild Fusion. And we've invested in Paystack, we invested in Tech Cabal, we've invested in a few software companies as well, we've invested in a lot of fintech companies. So actually a lot of my time is spent not even just running my company, which is running already, but actually looking after these startups and trying to help them not to make the same mistakes that I did when I was starting my company, and also giving them, I think entrepreneurship can also be quite lonely. So coming from a background where it was a very sort of working class background in England, and nobody really had been super successful in business in my family. So coming from that background, you don't have very much advice. And a lot of these startups as well, they just don't have rich people around them. So a lot of the lessons that you would normally, like somebody born into a rich home would just go and ask their father, they don't have that. So I feel that all of the board members need to be there for them, need to be in their offices continually, need to be in their face continually, saying, do you have any questions? Who do you want me to link you up with? Who do you want me to speak to in order to get this business? So I divide my time between running my own business and helping our portfolio companies to grow as well. And they're really, really growing, and I'm so, so proud of them.
So great. I'm happy we're having this conversation. So because a lot of people are, everyone talking about tech, fintech, and people are trying to invest in fintech. But there's also the real economy where, fintech plays a role in enabling that. But but then again, without the real economy, you don't have much fintech. So all your day-to-day business, your content developers, your bakeries as well. Isn't there a concern that we're not focusing more on those where they're not sexy, but they're actually vital to the economy? Or the returns are not there in the very short term, but they're very, very essential.
I really think the real sector has a future in Nigeria, but I think there's a lot of barriers to entry in terms of, like, you mean sort of manufacturing businesses, for example.
Cottage industries.
They need a lot more capital, number one. And then there's a lot of problems in terms of powering. There's a lot of factors, I guess, that act on those companies that are out of anybody's control. But I think that with tech companies, and why tech companies are so interesting for investors, is that they can reach scale very, very quickly. There's a low barrier for entry in terms of capital. And I think the other thing about it is it's not too reliant on external factors either. They're not too regulated, they're not too, to export a product from Nigeria, you need permission from like 8 different agencies. You have to basically become a part-time lobbyist to do those businesses.
I will hit you below the belt, but you're a doctor,
yeah.
right here? So you impact a society, right?
Absolutely.
Tremendously. Like when I hear you speak now, right, it's like fintech, low capital, scale. So it's more about the financial numbers, but
I'm a doctor by profession. I'm a capitalist by necessity.
Okay.
So I'm first and foremost, before my degree, I'm a business person. And if the business works, like I feel that the soul of a business is in its balance sheet. That's what I'm going to look at first before I consider, like I want a business to be sustainable. We're not running charities here, we're not an NGO. We need businesses to be sustainable. So I'm looking, when we as a group, as Green Tree Investment Company, go to look at a company, we're looking at, is this a sustainable business? We want impact, we want to impact lives, we want to sort of help people, but also we want to know that this is a sustainable business that we're going to get a good return from.
So wouldn't you say that the impact comes from changing people's lives? So I will use a service or a product because it's impacting my life. I don't make it a convenience, I'm deriving pleasure. So from a social impact perspective, you can achieve both financially, right, and socially as well. And I think those are the sustainable ones. Because my problem with fintech is, not my problem. Fintech has its beautiful opportunities, but there are also the challenges. And the challenges are, you don't know which technology is going to be the relevant technology in 5 years. So all the investors, so it's like, so the most important thing, you make bets on many, but knowing that few are going to fall by the wayside, right? And while the baker, will always be, the baker and the doctor and the teacher will always have a job because those are long-term investments.
But even those things are becoming disrupted, and they're definitely, I think that the future of healthcare is digital. The future of banking is digital. The future of almost every single, if you look at what people are doing with agri-tech, if you're looking at what people are doing with food tech, I think that the future of almost every industry is digital. And I think that this is an area where we in Africa can't afford to be left behind again.
Okay, so last question. So where do you see the opportunities? And I think it's an appropriate question to ask you, since you're an investor and you see a lot of ideas. What do you think the opportunity is for Nigeria, especially from an entrepreneur's perspective, and knowing like the challenges that we have today, and what are the things that we need to be invested in to ensure that we have a sustainable digital future?
Honestly, I see a lot of emphasis in terms of policy on developing agriculture and manufacturing. And I think those sectors do have a role. But I do think that probably China was the last country really that was going to be able to get rich by making things cheaply and exporting them to the West. I can see the Internet of Things, I can see 3D printing, I can see a lot of disruptive technologies that might not allow us to be able to get rich the same way they did. The reason why we started a tech-focused investment firm, and the reason why I am personally so bullish about tech innovation, is I really feel that the future is digital, and I think Nigeria should be investing, and Nigeria, the direction of policy, should be really, really focused right now on what the future is going to be and what a world sort of 20, 30 years from now is going to look like. And that world definitely will be focused around mobile, it will be focused around the Internet of Things, it will be focused around artificial intelligence. And those are the things, those are the sorts of skills that we should be trying to gather now, so that we're not asking for aid in 70 years' time.
So, Tech Talks, what a wonderful place. So Ola, thank you very much. From doctor to entrepreneur to investor. That's a full circle.
Absolutely.
So thank you, and thank you for coming on the show.